Yeah.
For everyone's time.
Okay, recording's on.
Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Olympic Region Clean Air Agency meeting for November 10th. I'd like to go ahead and do a round of introductions for the record. So I'm Jim Cooper from the City of Olympia, the chair. Cynthia?
I'm Cynthia Pratt from the City of Lacey, Deputy Mayor, and I'm Vice Chair.
Joan? You're muted, Joan.
I'm Joan Cathy from the City of Tumwater, and I am the Mayor Pro Tem.
Bill?
I'm Bill Peach, Clallam County Commissioner.
Greg?
Greg Brotherton, Jefferson County Commissioner.
Carolina?
Carolina Mejia, Thurston County Commissioner. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, you're dragging a little bit in your audio.
Okay.
Okay, and did I miss any other board members before I go to staff? Okay, Fran, can you walk us through the staff?
Happy to. Fran McNair, Executive Director, Olympic Region Clean Air Agency. Odell?
You caught me off guard. Odell Hadley, Senior Air Monitoring Specialist for ORCAA.
Lauren, and Lauren is standing in for Mark today. Lauren Wadewell.
Hi, Lauren, stand in for Mark for the engineering report.
How about Lynn?
Good morning, all. Lynn Harding, Administrative Services Manager for ORCAA.
Dan?
Dan Nelson, Communications Manager for ORCAA.
Robert?
Robert Moody, Compliance Manager at ORCAA.
And I see Mike Schultz. You want to introduce yourself, Mike? You're muted, Mike.
Yeah, Mike Schultz, Compliance Supervisor, just listening in while I work here.
Did I miss anybody? I think that's it for.
Okay. Thank you, Fran. I think I got one other board member coming in. So I see Randy. How are you doing? We're just finishing.
Sorry about the delay.
Hey, your timing is perfect. Just finished introduction, so welcome.
And I don't see our attorneys. Hopefully they'll be here. There'll be one or two of them will be tuning in soon.
Okay. Well, that's great. So I wanted to move in next to the approval of the agenda. So is everyone okay with the agenda?
Yes.
Okay, hearing no dissent, we have an agenda. Cynthia, do you have any finance report?
Not for this time. I think I reported out last time.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. And then I just have a quick report, and if we need to, we can talk about it a little bit for the executive director search. So let me pull up my notes. Really impressive pool. So we had 31 applicants for our executive director position. 2 of those are internal. And then what the personnel committee has narrowed down the list of 6 applicants to do interviews with next week. And so we'll spend half a day, Tuesday and Wednesday, it looks like right now, interviewing those candidates. Our plan then, based on the timeline, is to bring back either 1 or 2 finalists to the board at our December 8th board meeting for a final interview. And then the board can go into discussions about qualifications, and we can deliberate a little bit about what we learned on the interview in a closed session per RCW. But then we can't make any decisions there. So we would need to come out of the closed session, and then probably what my recommendation would be is to, from the closed session, I would go and negotiate if we have a preferred candidate. And then my proposal is that we would come back together either Friday the 10th or Monday, December 13th. First thing in the morning, Monday, or lunch on Friday is what I'm thinking right now. And make an actual appointment to the position if we have a candidate who's accepted, and we can approve a contract. So right now, based on a quick read of the bylaws, it looks like that notice would need at least 24 hours notice for that extra special meeting. But we're going to ask Jeff if there's any longer requirements. So maybe we either need to notice it today, or we have a minute for Debbie to make sure one of those two options works for the board before we put it on the calendar. So I just want to reinforce how great the timeline, or not the pool is. We have a really excellent pool of candidates. Kind of blew my mind reading the applications and going through them with Linnea at the City of Olympia. So I want to thank Linnea and for the board already for the great work that she's doing, keeping this moving along and keeping things scheduled. So with that, the only other thing I would say is if you have questions you'd like us to dig in on or really learn about, or there's things that we should be really considering in the interviews, please let Greg or Cynthia or I know. Otherwise, we're going to work on what we think based on what we've heard from you and what we've seen in the job and Linnea's recommendations as well. So with that, I'll just open it up and see if there's questions or comments. I see Jeff is unmuted, so let's go with the council first before we get too far along.
I'm sorry I came in a little late. I was actually responding to an email from Robert about the question on whether you need 30 days notice for a special meeting. Under the Open Public Meetings Act, you need 24 hours notice. And if there's no hearing, if this is for consideration of appointment of an executive director and considering their qualifications, that would not require a public hearing. So there isn't some other law that would require additional notice. You're only required to have 24 hours notice, and you're limited to those items that are on your agenda for things you can take final action on. If it's just a meeting to consider and discuss the qualifications, and you wouldn't be taking final action at that special meeting, you're still 24 hours is all you're required.
Okay, great. So we can, on the 8th, we can have a meeting, and then we can have a penciled in meeting either Friday or Monday to deliberate further and then make consider a contract if we're ready. Okay.
Yes. You're talking December 8th.
Yeah, so December 8th, we do final interviews and go into deliberations about qualifications. And then either Friday the 10th or Monday the 13th, we come back together after I've done negotiations if there's a preferred candidate, and then deliberate further if we need to before coming out and considering a contract. Randy, I see your hand.
Yes, please consider this specific question if you don't mind, especially when you're hiring directors. I have found this to be one of my favorites for the last 30 years. I asked them to describe the people in their last 3 locations that they worked. Are they kind people? Are they mean people? Are they backbiters? Are they party? What were they like in that particular situation? The reason why I asked that is you will more often find if they're backbiters and the like, you are hiring a backbiter. They are what they saw. No matter where you go, there you are. And so it's been one of my go-to questions for almost 30 years, and it has served me very, very well. When you got somebody that loved their people, that loved working with them, found them to be intelligent and bring forward great ideas, how much you want to bet that that's the person that helped move that whole thought process along, and that's why it was successful. So please consider adding that as one of the questions.
That's awesome, Randy. I love it. And honestly, if anybody else has something like that they'd like us to ask, we got an hour with these folks, and we would love to have your questions, and we can. Linnea is going to be working on them on Friday, so whether you have it now or you email me before Friday, we'll get them into the consideration. That's a good one.
Yeah. I might want to add one more thing too, but I'll do it. I'll email you or Linnea.
Yeah, email Linnea, Cynthia.
I think that's a great question, Randy, and I'd encourage other members to suggest other questions. That's kind of the bedrock of these processes is having good questions that are revealing kind of level 2. And I just echo what Jim said. It was an astounding stack of resumes. I didn't see all 30, but just the 10 that made it through to the level that I reviewed were amazing. So impressive. And thanks to Linnea. I mean, I know we're going through this process at Jefferson County right now too, I think I mentioned. And Linnea is so far is doing the same job as Prothman consultants that we've hired very capably. So really appreciate the extra effort that Olympia is throwing in.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. Yeah, we're on time on our timeline, and we're on budget, which is free. So it works all the way around so far. So. Any other questions or comments on the search? So we really want to hear from you. We want to make sure that you feel like you're a part of the process. So if you want to connect with Linnea, she can let you see the pile as well. So those will become public record eventually, I think, anyway. So but feel free, if you'd like, I can connect you, and if you'd like to see what we're looking at. Otherwise, we'll keep moving forward as planned, and probably a couple of days before the December 8th meeting, we'll transmit to you what we're thinking with at least the resumes, and then we can get into an interview as a full board. So, Randy, think about whether you want to save that question for the full board or if you want us to ask it in our first interviews too. Okay, anything else? All right, I don't see any public comment. Is there any public comment? No, okay. So that takes us to our consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any amendments or discussion or questions, comments, or polls, actually, is what I should ask for consent. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, so that takes us to our compliance report. Robert, tell us what you got.
Happy to do that. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. The B3 in your packet is the compliance update. As you're kind of browsing through that, you'll notice that the outdoor burning season has fully opened, and we've issued an awful lot of burn permits. And we've probably had a few burn complaints as well to go along with that. That got me to thinking about the complaints that we get. And so I believe you should be seeing a graph, a little pie chart of what the complaints are that we have received. So understand this is from our database. First complaint in the database was, I knew this a minute ago, entered in 1998, I believe it was, at number 1. As of this morning, we're now at 21,000 complaints in our database. The data that you see there in front of you is roughly the last 15 years. The older stuff we've archived. They are generalities that you're looking at there, but it does kind of lay out where we spend our complaint response time. The big percentage of odor complaints there, I should add, without naming names, but over 1,000 complaints that are part of that filing are related to one specific source. So I'll leave it at that, but that's kind of what we have been doing off and on. It does lighten up a little bit during the summertime, but now I lost get rid of that slide.
As for that one source, is it mostly 1 or 2 people, or is it the source?
It is a specific company located in Grays Harbor County.
But I also need to add that because of the changes they've made in the last couple of years, the number of complaints has gone down dramatically. I think this summer I got 2, So they've done an incredible job, finally. And there was a propensity for a couple of people being the major complainers who live in close proximity to the facility, but the facility has come a long way. So
That was actually my question. Thank you.
Yes, they have more control devices there than some of our big mills have. And yes, they have done wonderfully. It took a lot of work to get there, but they did finally come around and get it taken care of. So are there any questions for me?
Good job.
What slice of the pie for odor is marijuana?
I can't, our database, we didn't add that until fairly recently, so I can't sort it out readily. My guess is, I mentioned over 1,000 complaints for one company. I would bet at this point, we're talking a couple hundred marijuana complaints.
Right on. Yeah, I knew that. That's the new one, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you, Robert. Oh.
I got a question for Robert. There is complaints for wood stoves, there's complaints for outdoor burning, and then there are smoke complaints. Can you describe what the difference is between those three categories?
It is how it's reported to us. So there is, I'll guarantee you, there is overlap between some of those. So if somebody calls up, they may say, I smell smoke. They may call up and say, my neighbor's burning and the smoke is bothering me, which would then give you the 2 ticks. So again, they're kind of generalities.
Okay. But it looked to me like the overwhelming number of complaints, other than the odor complaints, was smoke-related complaints.
Correct.
Okay, thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
So we'll go to, oh, now I forgot. We have Lauren standing in for Mark. Is that right?
Yep, that's me. Okay,
Sorry
so
about
I think, no, you're good. So I think you all got a copy of the board or the engineering report of permits we're currently working on once issued. So if any of those caught your eye, let me know and I'll do my best to answer any questions about them. But down at the bottom, Mark did ask me to talk a little bit about one that I've been working on a lot this last month is Westport Seafoods. Down towards the bottom, starting with that W. The permit is done. It's just sitting on Debbie's desk waiting for final payment from the source. Once they pay, it will be issued. But the reason he asked me to talk about this is I will go ahead and share my screen, is that this particular source, while on paper, it doesn't look like a large project. It's replacing a diesel boiler for a bigger one at a seafood processing plant. However, these boilers that use diesel take a lot of work on our side for the permitting because we almost always have to do air quality modeling for these. So for the larger sources, I'm talking like the Warehousers, the Crown Cork and Seals, the McKinleys of the world, they usually hire a consultant to do this air quality modeling. But for these smaller sources, I'm able to do this, and I can go ahead and share my screen to give you an idea of kind of what that looks like on our end. So let me see. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so this is part of what we do, and this air quality modeling is part of what we have to do for part of the Washington Air Toxics Program. So ecology sets certain thresholds for select toxic air pollutants, and if they're above those certain thresholds, we have to do refined air dispersion modeling. This is usually what the consultants do and prepare that we review for these larger sources. But for these smaller sources, like Westport Seafoods, it commonly happens with the diesel boilers. We end up doing that for them. So let me go ahead and bear with me while I export this. Source, contours. So we take a variety of things, 5 years of surface met data. We take upper air soundings for upper air data. We process it through a meteorological model. Then we put that into an air dispersion model to say, okay, we know what's coming out of the stack. What are the concentrations going to be on the ground? So bear with me as this kind of drags and lags. Oops. Sorry. Zoom might make this look a little choppy on your end, but it should catch up once I zoom in here. So this is an example of what the output looks like graphically when we do these air dispersion modeling projects. So this is Westport Seafood. You can see the outline of the buildings that we create. That red column, if you can see that, is the boiler stack. And these colors are isopleths showing the concentrations of the combustion emissions from this diesel boiler combusting diesel. The numbers for these purposes are somewhat meaningless because I use a scaler so that I can scale it to multiple toxic air pollutants to make it so I only have to do one run and not 5. So the numbers for those purposes, raw numbers, are meaningless since I scale it, but this gives you an idea of annually, on an averaged annual basis in this case, what some of these toxic air pollutants distribute look like just from a diesel boiler. That's one of the projects we did this last week. That's just an example of something that we do really for these smaller sources that aren't the Weyerhaeusers of the world that hire consultants to prepare this, that we review. So it takes a little bit of time, but ultimately I think helps the sources in the end that are, you know, on the smaller side and really can't hire the consultants to do this.
Oh.
Does anyone have any questions about this or about the board report in general?
Questions for Lauren?
Excellent job.
Yeah, it's really cool. Thanks for showing us a little insight into how you do your work. I have one question. So when I think about like just the intersection of our climate planning work and, you know, our air quality compliance work, is there an electric option for this that would actually save a company money over time because they don't have to get involved in air quality regulating around the boiler? Like is that kind of a product on the market for this scale?
If it was and it was economically feasible, I think I'd be seeing it more often. Right now, around Olympia and Tumwater, these boilers are usually natural gas and propane fired. It's out on the coast in Grays Harbor County and Pacific County where I don't think it's cost effective for them, and that's where I usually see the diesel boilers.
Right.
If whether or not there's some kind of incentive out there for them to turn electric and move away from diesel, those incentives get made and those decisions are above my pay grade.
Right. Is there a measurable difference between a diesel and natural gas once the controls are all in place?
In this case, there's no controls other than the burners themselves that come like in a package boiler. They'll have something like low NOx burners. But there is a big difference between combusting diesel and combusting natural gas when it comes to the toxic air pollutants that ecology has identified and they set thresholds for. So we as ORCAA, we don't get to pick and choose what those reasonable thresholds are for the toxics. That's dictated by ecology. And when it comes to diesel, every application that's hit by dust so far has required this level of detail to show compliance with that Washington State air toxics rule.
And the other issue is there isn't natural gas out on the peninsula, so that's not even a.
Well, right. Yeah, no, I get that too. I'm more wondering if there's an emerging electric economy here because it makes our regulatory life easier too.
Absolutely, but I'm not sure that there is out there.
Awesome. Okay, thank you, Lauren. I really appreciate that detail. Okay, air quality program update from Odell.
Hello and good morning, everyone. So I will share my screen too. So you can all see that, I'm hoping. Okay, so this is our air quality monitoring summary for October 2021. And I am going to see if I can get it to click. There we go. The keyboard's being so yeah, we had good air quality in October at in all of our counties and at all of our monitors. You can see the minimums, average, and maximums at each of the sites, and you can see they're all pretty comparable. We We did lose some data at Chesapeake, which is not uncommon this time of year, usually because of power outages. This time we had an uninterrupted power supply fail, and then our data logger was unpowered for 7 days until Courtney, who is the air quality monitoring person for the ORCAA, was able to get up there and reset our connection. So that is one way we help each other out, and that saves me a trip. But we did lose about a week of data. So other than that, we had 100% data retrieval at all of our other sites. So that is great. So I have begun the Grays Harbor saturation study. We, just as a recap for those of you who are new, saturation studies are something we've been doing in all of our counties. Not every year, but about every other year. It takes about 1.5 years to get it all going and then to get it down and find locations. So we changed during the Mason County study. We stopped using the 4 optical particle counters that we had purchased. We were having problems with obsolete software and data logging problems. Started using the purple air sensors, which worked great. I think we demonstrated that they compared really well with our monitor, but they did need to have a correction applied, but that was also true for the optical particle counters. So they were at least as good, if not better, than the optical particle counters, and much, much, much lower cost. In addition, the data are directly transmitted to a website, the cloud, and can be downloaded from the Purple Air site, which alleviates our need to provide data loggers and security, and it's just much easier for us. So Grays Harbor, and then as the Purple Airs have gained in popularity, I am able to, I call it crowdsource the saturation study. So I'm able to add considerably to the number of sensors we have by incorporating public sensors into our network. So the past studies that we did in Clallam County, Jefferson County, Mason County, and Thurston, we had our air sensor location and then 3 other locations in the county. But as you can see, we have 7 purple air sensors operating in Grays Harbor that are not owned by ORCAA. So we are actually doubling our coverage of the county. This is great. So last month I installed the purple air sensor at Harbor High School. We always have to have one co-located with our monitor to ensure that they are reading the same thing and that I can get an accurate correction for that area, because those corrections change depending on the aerosol in that region, and also sometimes the humidity or the weather can impact how those 2 sensors agree with each other. So I just want to give a shout out to Sean Philbrick, who is the maintenance, one of the maintenance facility guys at Aberdeen School District. And he was just absolutely amazing at helping me get that installed and connected, and just took a couple hours out of his day to do that. So I just really want to thank him and put that out there. So currently we have, as I said, 7 purple air sensors. We've got 1 at the Timberland Library, or Timberland Library has been instrumental in this. They've installed sensors at all of their libraries, although some of them are indoors, which are less helpful or not helpful. But right now we have sensors in McCleary, Elma, and Oakville that are outdoors. We also have sensors in Hoquiam, Westport, and Seabrook. And I am planning to install 2 more sensors that are owned by ORCAA. One will be either in Cosmopolis or West Aberdeen and in Central Park. And this is at the request of some local concerned citizens who have taken an interest in the study, and they want to see some sensors in areas where we don't already have sensors. And so this is our first month of data from the Grays Harbor saturation study, just to show you what that's going to look like. I might have to, I'm probably going to have to find a different way to present this, because if we get 9 sensors up there, this is just going to look like a spaghetti of colors, and it'll be hard to actually make sense of it. But Aberdeen High School is this black line that I installed on the 11th, and you can see that here. And then Hoquiam is the nearest sensor, and you can see that they're fairly well correlated, almost identical as they go through here. Cohasset Beach is out by Westport, and that's this pink line. And then I just wanted, this brown one is Lake Quinault. So that kind of gives us the mountain background area, and you can see it's considerably lower. I also have Seabrook, but I didn't have the data for that yet, and I will have that next time. And then McCleary and Oakville are rural sites, and you can see some big spikes, which is not uncommon. We do see that in the rural counties. There's a lot more outdoor burning and DNR burning out there that can come in and affect the site for one day and really drive those numbers up. So it'll be interesting to see how that looks as we go through the study. Okay, so that's all I have on that. And then I just wanted to mention again that the purple air sensors are not just increasing in Grays Harbor, but we're seeing them increase in all of our counties. And so my hope is that at some point, instead of rotating the saturation study, it'll just kind of be an ongoing pool of data that we can look at when we get questions, or if there's any issue with, you know, if we have concerns about our monitor, it's just something I can go to and look at this data. So right now, Clallam County has 7 public sensors, and I will be installing our purple air sensor next to our monitor on Friday is the plan. Of course, that's the plan. I can't promise you until it's actually happened. Grays Harbor, we have 7 plus the one that we've installed at Harbor High School for a total of 8. ORCAA sensor at Jefferson County, and then 10 public sensors, so 11 total in Jefferson. Mason County, we have 5, and then I've installed one at the Shelton Fire Department there, so 5 sensors plus ORCAAs. Pacific County, we have 2 public sensors, and I have not yet installed one there. And then in Thurston, we have 14 public sensors plus the Mountain View, which is co-located. So we're getting close to having co-location at all of our sites as planned, and the number of sensors is going up in each of our counties. So I think this is going to work well and be a good plan moving forward. So last, in other monitoring news, we did submit an ARP, that's the American Rescue Plan, through EPA for, we submitted our funding proposal. I probably should have put this on the slide, and I don't know why I didn't, but that's for upgrades at Chesapeake to the infrastructure there. We want to get a new trailer that can house more analyzers. The reason for that is the Ascent project out of UW. It's a multi-university research project, and they were funded by National Science Foundation. So they will be putting additional air monitors at Chesapeake. It's super exciting, but if we don't get a bigger trailer where they can share with us, they're going to have to put another trailer up there, and it's getting a little crowded on top of the mountain. So we need to take some of those old derelict trailers out and dispose of them appropriately, and then put in one big new trailer. So we submitted, I think, $130,000 funding request to upgrade that site and improve the infrastructure up there. We had a couple of site visits, Port Townsend and Shelton, where we had the quarterly QC and did some maintenance out at those sites. There was the Northwest Air Quest fall meeting virtual. I am very sad to report that Ranil Dhamapala is leaving Washington State Department of Ecology. He's been one of the key voices on the smoke blog and really beloved by a lot of our public as far as talking about smoke and wildfire smoke. So we're very sad to see him leave and go to Southern California. I just think he's nuts. No, California is very lucky to have him out. That's the better way to put that. NACA monitoring meeting, a lot of meetings this month. Talked about the Mason County saturation study. So I'm still working on that data and working on that report, and I hope to have something soon to show you about the results of that study. And also work to get data to Thurston County Regional Planning Council. This is something we provide to them every year so they can track air quality trends in Thurston County. And then lastly, this is the most exciting thing we've heard in a while. So some of you have known about, and some of you maybe knew, Washington State has had its own air quality advisory that we liked because it was more protective than the air quality index used by EPA and pretty much everyone else in the country. But while it was more protective, it was also creating more problems as far as a communication issue, because people didn't understand why there was a difference or how to interpret the difference, and they were seeing different colors, and it was really muddling up that communication. So the State Department of Health and the Department of Ecology did a survey, I guess, and interviewed all of these stakeholders. And the overwhelming desire was to return to the air quality index so that we could have one system that was uniform across the state and the country. And so they are going to be returning to the air quality index in April. And this will really be helpful with messaging. And I'm not sure, but maybe Dan will talk a little bit more about that. But the changes will take effect in April 2022. So yeah, pretty happy about that. And that is all I have. So let me know if you have any questions.
Any questions for Odell?
So just one more comment about the switch from WACA to AQI. This was all started, it really got going because of the wildfires and just tremendous confusion in places like Spokane, because they border with Idaho, and they were using AQI. Puget Sound used AQI. There was inconsistency in our own state, and what we had talked to the Department of Health about and to ecology was, we could provide more information, even though if we go to AQI, we can still embellish the information so people have better information, give better descriptions about what each level of air quality means. So I think there's still work to be done, but this will help. This is just much better for the public. So we're really pleased that they finally made that decision. But this was a long discussion between the air directors in Washington and ecology and the Department of Health. So this was a huge battle, but we feel it's a really good outcome.
Great. Any other questions here? Odell, I just want to compliment you on the purple air, thinking about what we've been through with saturation studies, and now you're literally building an air monitoring net over the peninsula. Nice work. It's really cool.
Well, to be fair, I'm not building it.
But
the public is building it.
But you're telling the story of it and bringing it together.
I'm telling the story of it, and I'm being an opportunist.
Right.
I mean, it's great. The more people that put these sensors out, and EPA has created a method for correction and for evaluating the data quality. So there is already a method there. There's already some validation and papers being published on this. So that really helps validate our use of the public sensors. And we're not the first to do it, but it will certainly make our saturation study projects much more thorough and easier to do going forward.
Well, we don't even really need to do it if we have a full picture live all the time, right?
You said it. I didn't say it. You said it.
Depending on what the rules are around what kind of monitors the state and Fed require us to have in place, right?
We still have those monitors. We just use these sensors to evaluate their placement and their representation. And by having one purple air sensor co-located with our monitor, we can show the agreement between the two quite nicely. So, yeah, I agree. I'm pretty excited about it.
Air quality meta.
And kudos go to the Timberland Library System too, because that's another whole group that the library system put in, and Odell's been working with them also. So they had inside air quality, but I think there's also outside air quality. I happened to be over at the mall months ago and went in to ask them a question, and that's when I heard about the Timberland Library System and the purple air, and then Odell took it.
Maybe this will be part of Dan's conversation, but is there a plan to do some community education and outreach and storytelling around that at the libraries? It's a great opportunity for us.
Yeah, I'm working on an application for some EPA recognition of timberland to get them some kudos nationally to show, this is a region-wide library network that's taken an initiative to help protect their community or inform their community. So we want to work with them and give them some props and rewards for that work, as well as then partner with them to further the educational message through them.
Nice. Thank you. Okay, anything, so I think we transitioned to you, Dan, so let's just keep moving in that direction.
Okay, well, I'll follow up more on what Odell said with the WACA AQI transition, and again, props to Fran and Odell in those meetings with DOH and ecology, where we stress the need for better methods of communicating and messaging, getting rid of the dual AQI or air quality indexes. We know WACA was more protective of health, had stricter standards, but we've I think helped convince DOH that we can still have that protective messaging, just tie it to the AQI. And the AQI, again, are most of our sister agencies, or many of our sister agencies, are using AQI because they're running their numbers through EPA, and EPA requires that our monitors run through the state. And so we were stuck using WACA. So there is a lot of disjointedness in the messaging. So we're going to tighten up the messaging, make it more protective of health, and stick everybody using AQI. So I think all in all, it's a great move forward and correction of a problem that's been ongoing for a few years. So it was really fantastic to see that news come out of Department of Health and Ecology. So one other thing related to Odell's program that I was informed about yesterday during a NACA communications committee meeting was EPA has a new air quality data website. And actually, I'll see if I can share my screen there. And I've got some, I've got some computer issues here, so I'm not going to be able to share it, looks like. But it's basically lets us pull up data, or anybody pull up data from back to 2000, 2001. So 20 plus years of data. You can organize it by state, by county, by city, wherever there's a monitor. So there's a ton of data available. It's going to be a useful tool, I think, to communicate. I'll send you all the link to that. But one of the really nice things is we can look at some of the tile plots for multi-years and actually see when we have problem air days each year, and they correlate year to year of smoke in the winter months for our county. So something that's going to make it easier to communicate with people. If we do need to call burn bans, we can have illustrations included in that messaging saying, here's why we're calling an air quality burn ban now. Air quality is bad now, and historically it's always been bad this time of year. So it's just another messaging tool, and the more data we have to back up some of our programs, the better we are. So it's actually a really fun website to poke around at now. So let's see, wood stove program is really ramping up. We've got 18 applications in for wood stove changeouts. I've got my first completed job came in today. So we've got people taking advantage of that new grant. Outdoor burning, we are at about 1,600 burn permits for Thurston County, one for the city of McCleary. So that's, Robert referenced that and the ongoing complaint issues we've got there. So I've been working closely with them on target messaging to problem areas. And then just a lot of, I'll call out Nick as doing a fantastic job. We had some technical issues in the back end of the website, and we had some, it was creating some broken links and problems with our forums. He got all the tech details worked out. We got everything relaunched and cleaned up. So basically trying to keep things operating smoothly and effectively for the public. So kind of like the duck, everything looks smooth on the surface, but Nick was paddling like crazy underneath. So that's all I've got on my list for you.
Okay, questions for Dan? Okay, thank you, Dan. Good stuff. Let's go, Lynn, financial updates.
Good morning, everyone. Nice to see y'all. Yeah, just a couple updates I have. For the fiscal year 2022, where for both the rev and the expenses, we are on target, on budget. Nothing to report on that. On the Washington CARES, I went as requested by Cooper. He asked that I keep you updated while CARE. And if you're not already aware, there was a lawsuit filed yesterday against the state on the implementation, the long-term care tax. And basically, there was 3 private sector employers and about 6 employees that came together filing this suit. Interesting, some of the statistics. Employment Security Department received more than 344,000 applications for exemption, and just over 140,000 have been reviewed and approved. So they got their work cut out for them if they're planning on making December 1 deadline. I'll report back and I'll continue to follow this. It'll be interesting because January 1 is just around the corner for this tax to be implemented, collected from our employees. We have 0% in our 9 rentals. And other than that, all is good, busy as ever with our year end and our new year. Unless there's any, I'm happy to.
Okay, questions for Lynn? Well, thanks for keeping us updated as we go through the growing pains on this important new employee benefit. So, okay, with that, we're going to Fran for the Executive Director's Report.
Thank you. A couple of things this morning. President Biden has issued through EPA a reduction in methane emissions, and it's for new and existing sources. So, it's for oil and gas producers, and that's really not us, that's more Northwest Clean Air, but it would involve any pipelines that we have if there's any leakage. So that's a critical area. Methane is a huge pollutant. So there's clearly going to be more to come, but the EPA is really ramping things up, trying to make up for lost time for the last 4 years to look at emissions from vehicles, light duty trucks, heavy duty trucks. They're really trying to get a lot done. It's a difficult situation. And the Department of Ecology is also working on the Climate Commitment Act. There will be changes that occur as a result of all of these legislative on the national and state level that we're following, and there will be impacts. So there will be needs for change in our regulations to make sure that we meet or exceed the emission standards that they're going to be setting before us. And Mark and Robert, but really Mark has been working on the ORCAA rules program. Remember we brought to you last month just sort of the big picture and some of the more administrative changes that need to occur under our rules, things like changing 7094 to 7815 and then other language changes. But Mark has done a really nice job of setting a schedule for how we need to make changes, because it's a huge project. And he's actually developed a timeline that we hope he can stick to. But with the timeline, it really breaks down the different pieces that need to occur to make sure that we don't miss anything. We're also looking at how many, in what areas we can get rid of our specific language and focus on the WAC. And so as the WAC has changed and there are changes to the SIP, then we would be changing our regulations also. And it's, so we're looking at how we comply with EPA on the federal side, with the state in terms of WAC, and obviously RCWs. So it's a massive, massive project. And so the rule writing will go clearly into 2022. But again, as I'm trying to develop the list of things for the transition, and I have a huge list of things that I want to provide to the new executive director, going over these rules and showing this person what we've got planned for the updates is really important. So I've got I think 15 or 16 items on the list so far that I want to share with this new person. And the other thing that I'd like to get started, and I've talked to the managers about this, is I want to get started on the fiscal year 2023 budget, just to get something outlined. I know that when I came in, things were sort of rolling, and it was a difficult year. It was 2009. It was, in the height of the recession. And what I want to try to do is make this transition as smooth and painless for the staff as well as a new person, to give them at least a breakdown in terms of skeleton situation of what a budget could look like. And obviously it'll change before it gets to you in a draft form. But I think the more that I can provide as background and perspective, the easier it'll be for this new person to be jumping in. It's sort of like, I always say coming into a position like this is like drinking out of a fire hose. And I want to try to make it as seamless for that person so they can jump in and get going, sort of running start. So I've got this list going. I'm hoping to be able to meet with the person and spend some time and make this transition as seamless as possible for them. The other question I have for you is, on our website, we've said, so we have my position posted, and it closed on Friday. Are you okay with us having Dan take that down? Since we had so many applicants and you're moving through the process, can we take it off the website?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So Dan will do that at the meeting. I didn't want to do that until I got your approval to do so. So with that, I think that's all I really have for this morning. Any questions?
Questions for Fran? Okay. Well, Fran, thank you for trying to leave as much brain dump as you can over the next couple of months for our new executive director. It's essential for anyone coming into the position, and I'm glad we're going to have a little bit of overlap so that you can have some conversations too. So thank you for that.
I've done that in every position I've been in, and I've had lots of positions in my career in Washington, but I feel it's only fair. And mostly only fair for the staff. I want to make sure that, and this is a very difficult transition time because of the pandemic. We've got people working here at a minimum 1 day a week. It's going to be, I want this new person to have an opportunity to really understand what a phenomenal team this person is getting. And so the more information I can provide, it benefits the staff, and I hope benefits this new person. I want the transition to be good for everyone. It's important to me.
Thank you for modeling what a good public servant looks like. We appreciate you. Okay, so under good of the order, I just wanted to check back in on our calendar. So I figure because Debbie's on vacation, it might be a little easier since we have a minute to look at calendars really quick. So I'd like to see on Friday, December 10th at noon, and Monday, December 13th at 8 a.m. which if you have any obstacles. I actually am inclined to lean towards the Monday so that we could have enough time to look at the contract and stuff before we took action. So thoughts?
Yes, I do.
Cynthia?
What was the,
Go ahead.
Carolina.
sorry, I didn't hear the date for the Monday.
So it's Friday the 10th at noon or Monday the 13th at 8 a.m.
So I have a AWC board meeting, of which I have to be up at CTAC from 9 till 2:30. So that would, on Friday. So that would be difficult for me. I am free the 13th.
Greg?
Yep, I have an hour at noon on the 10th, and then Mondays are our our county commissioner meeting. So that starts at 9. So I have an hour going from 8 to 9 as well, which is a little tight, but happy to do it. And I could probably, squeeze another half an hour out if it was.
You can make it work. Okay. Bill, you're muted.
Same issue that Greg has. Our county commissioners meeting begin at 9 o'clock on Monday. So a meeting before that would be fine with me.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Randy?
Our meetings again on Monday begin at 9 o'clock most of the time and take up all day, Monday and Tuesday.
Okay. Joan? Oh, you're muted, Joan.
Friday's best, but I could make Monday work.
Okay, Carolina?
I am open Friday for an hour and then Monday is freer for me. So
More free.
I can make
Okay.
Monday work.
So it seems like, well, it's a tight day. Monday is the best for everyone because Cynthia's not free on Friday at noon.
Well, at least until 3 o'clock, I probably could stay overnight at Clearbrook and log in.
I'm thinking so that we have enough time to go back and forth, and I have enough time for Jeff to review what we're working on with contract before it's signed. Let's plan on the Monday at 8. Fran, can you get that on our calendars? And Jeff, does that work for you, Jeff? Okay.
And I can get it on your calendars and I'll have Debbie advertise it.
Okay, perfect. And then that way we have a standing. And then Jeff, do we need to have the contract on the agenda when we post it Friday, or is it okay to email it and to the board and then bring it to the public?
You don't have to have the actual contract as long as it is listed as an item of business when you give the special meeting notice. Then you could adopt the contract.
Okay, so we can bring it to the public's eye at the meeting.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Jeff, can you verify that there also needs to be a note on the door of the location?
Yes, there does need to be, and I included that in my email to Robert. Exactly what the notice needs to be. It needs to be at the place of business on the agency's website, and it needs to be delivered. It needs to be a call to all members and a notice to media who has a notice on file that they want to receive special meeting notices.
Great. Very thorough. Okay.
I sent an email to Robert, so we got all those points, Jeff.
Yeah, I sent that in an email to Robert already.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. So Fran, you'll take care of getting us noticed while Debbie's out, and then get it on calendars. And then we will check in with you probably later next week and let you know, just to make sure if we feel like we're on timeline for December 8th interviews and kind of, how we see the picture moving forward. So anything else today for the good of the order?
Jeff, do you have any update that you need to give her?
On the 350 Seattle, I can give you a quick update that's appropriate for open session.
Okay.
We have motions for summary judgment that are pending on Friday. It's going to be heard by Zoom at 10:30 by King County Superior Court Judge Ramsire. And she'll be, we also moved to continue that motion so that we could get discovery responses. We got discovery responses at the same time our response to the motion was due. So that didn't do us any good in responding to the motion. And we think that the court should set it over until early January, at which time the agencies have reserved time to make cross motions and have the court hear it all at once in the second week in January. But the court will be considering those motions on Friday. So the gist of this case is who is supposed to issue permits? Professional staff and the agency's control officer, or do they actually have to be issued by the board itself? And the plaintiffs are claiming that that is a non-delegable duty and that you cannot pass a rule that authorizes the control officer to do it. We think that that's crazy and doesn't conform with the law.
And when we look back, our history at ORCAA goes back to what, the 70s, I think, when that delegation was approved by the board to the control officer. So we've had it for a long time in our rules.
Yes, and the legislature has known about that since when they amended the statute several times. So they know that's what our rules are, and they have not seen fit to require a change.
Good update. Thank you. So that conversation reminded me for Nick and Fran, when we meet both on the 8th and on the 13th, I'm going to need the ability to put the board in closed session to discuss qualifications. So either a separate Zoom link or a breakout room that I can control, so that we can be smooth at that moment.
Will do.
Okay. Okay, anything else for the good of the order? Okay, folks, thank you. We're adjourned. Take care. Good meeting.
Bye-bye.
Have a happy
Yeah, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great
Bye,
Thanksgiving.
everyone.